In the land of Egypt, where the mighty pyramids pierced the desert skies, the Israelites toiled in bondage. For centuries, they had been enslaved by the Egyptians, forced to build cities and harvest crops under the scorching sun. Meanwhile, in the desert of Midian, a humble shepherd named Moses tended his father-in-law's flocks. Moses, once a prince of Egypt, had fled to Midian after killing an Egyptian who was beating an Israelite. For 40 years, he had lived in exile, his past life a distant memory. One day, as Moses led his flock to the base of Mount Horeb, a bush caught his eye. It was ablaze with fire, yet it was not consumed. Curious, Moses approached the bush, and suddenly a voice boomed from within the flames. "Moses, Moses, come no closer. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Moses obeyed, and the voice continued, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt, and I have come to rescue them. I will send you to Pharaoh to demand that he let my people go." Moses, feeling inadequate for the task, protested, "But who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" God reassured Moses, "I will be with you, and I will give you the words to speak. You will be my messenger to Pharaoh, and you will lead my people to freedom." And so, Moses returned to Egypt, armed with nothing but his staff and the promise of God. He stood before Pharaoh, demanding that he let the Israelites go. But Pharaoh, proud and stubborn, refused to listen. God, determined to free his people, sent 7 devastating plagues upon Egypt. Each plague was a demonstration of God's power and a warning to Pharaoh to release the Israelites. The plague of water turned to blood. God turned the Nile River and all the water in Egypt into blood, killing all the fish and making the water undrinkable. The plague of frogs, which infested Egypt, covering the land and invading Pharaoh's palace. The plague of gnats. Tiny gnats or mosquitoes swarmed over Egypt, tormenting humans and animals alike. The plague of flies. A swarm of flies invaded Egypt, but the Israelites were spared. The plague of disease on livestock killed the Egyptian livestock, but the Israelites' animals were spared. The plague of boils, which brought painful boils, afflicted the Egyptians, but the Israelites were untouched. The plague of hail, a devastating hailstorm, struck Egypt, destroying crops and killing people and animals. Despite the severity of the plagues, Pharaoh remained stubborn, refusing to let the Israelites go. The Passover and the death of the firstborn, God, in his mercy, instructed the Israelites to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb so that the angel of death would pass over their homes and spare their firstborn sons. The Egyptians, however, did not heed this warning, and at midnight the angel of death struck, killing every firstborn son in Egypt, including Pharaoh's own son. Pharaoh, finally broken, summoned Moses and Aaron and begged them to take the Israelites and leave Egypt immediately. As the Israelites fled Egypt, they found themselves trapped between the pursuing Egyptian army and the Red Sea. But God, in his miraculous power, parted the waters of the Red Sea, creating a path for the Israelites to cross safely. The Egyptians, however, were not so fortunate. As they followed the Israelites into the parted sea, the waters closed behind them, drowning the entire Egyptian army. And so, the Israelites emerged on the other side of the Red Sea, free at last from their bondage in Egypt. They sang and danced, praising God for his mighty deliverance. Moses, the humble shepherd, had become the leader of a nation, and God had demonstrated his power and love for his people. The Exodus from Egypt would become a defining moment in Israel's history, a reminder of God's faithfulness and redemption.